That was excellent. All right, so at the risk of causing geopolitical unrest, we're going to have a show of hands here. How many think the West is cooked and China will ultimately be ascendant? Can I get a show of hands? Oh, no one wants to play on this. All right, fine. I will just say 2 quick points on the end of that. I think it was a very interesting point, the debate between sort of like the super apps and delivery mobility and capturing information out that stream versus regulatory. I am curious about whether the regulatory is the real bottleneck there versus sort of different paradigms in that. But the real point I actually want to bring up with Chris, and maybe we'll debate this backstage, is it would be ironic if the Western chains will lose out because Americans and those in the global north will refuse to accept the Faustian bargain they'd made with their Silicon Valley tools, where if the service is free, the product is you. You know, when BMW wanted to do subscriptions for heated seats, they faced an uprising. And when Farley's predecessor, Jim Hackett, suggested that, hey, we have way more data on you. We know your spouse. We know your house. We get all of that off your financing applications. There was pitchforks and torches. And that doesn't seem to happen as much in the Chinese ecosystem. So it'll be very interesting to see if the norms and beliefs and philosophy around mobility versus your phone and computing will be different and may end up holding back the West. And as to your point, Chris, that perhaps the future of transit is PPP, autonomous partnerships. Well, I will leave that to our last and final session, perhaps, to take you up on that or not. Syed Hamdan, who is the head of consulting for kwPRIME, please come up and lead our final session of CoMotion Global 2025.
You can sit. Your Excellencies, delegates from across the world, and all those contributing to the mobility ecosystems worldwide in different challenging circumstances, I welcome you all to this session. Good afternoon, everyone. Our session is about building resilient transit systems for a changing world. Now, we're in Riyadh at a really pivotal and relevant moment. Saudi Arabia is rolling one of the world's largest, significant, and most integrated public transport programs. New city bus systems across the kingdom, all aimed at carrying millions of passengers a day, cutting down car dependence, and building climate-ready, or let's say climate-responsive cities, which are, let's say, people-centered. But more infrastructure, as we all know, alone doesn't guarantee resilience, especially in a world of climate shocks, peak hour crowding, digital disruption, and fast-moving urban growth. Today, we're joined by leaders who are actually running and building these systems. From metro and BRT operations in Malaysia, to very light rail innovation in the UK, to ropeways and intercity buses, by the way, in really challenging circumstances, to city leadership and global municipal networks. I'll invite very swiftly each one of you to introduce yourselves. Let's begin with the Mayor, Vrbanovic. I got the pronunciation right, finally. All right.
Well, thank you very much. So I'm Barry Vrbanovic, Mayor of the city of Kitchener in Canada on the western end of the Toronto-Waterloo Region Innovation Corridor, and also one of the co-presidents of United Cities and Local Governments, the global voice of cities and regions in international forums.
All right. Mr. Jordi. Yeah.
Hello, this is Jordi.
I think it's...
Hello, now. This is Jordi. I am the CEO of Moventis. Moventis, we are a public transport operator around the world. We are all around Europe operating public transportation systems by bus, tramway, city bus, intercity bus, tramway, public bike systems. Also, we are doing technology projects like integrating fare collection in the area of Barcelona with 1 billion passengers per year, which is it's an amazing AFC system. Also, we are doing all other type of technologies like shuttle, which is transportation on demand, demand-responsive transit transportation. And we are doing this, as I said, worldwide, mainly in Europe, but also we are strong now in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, now we have 3 operations, and later I will speak a little bit about that.
For sure. Thank you so much. Dr. Prodyut.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I can see that all of you all are very resilient. In the last session, and you all are still around. So anyway, I'm Prodyut Dutt. I'm the Group COO of Prasarana Malaysia Berhad. We are a federal government-owned company, 100% federal government-owned, and we run the urban rail and urban bus services in Kuala Lumpur. We carry 1 million trips on the rail and about 280,000 trips on the bus every day. Thank you.
Benedikt?
Good afternoon, I'm Benedikt. I'm a mobility expert at Doppelmayr. Doppelmayr is the world market leader in the roadway business. And in the recent years, we've seen a growing number of cities that are planning or even building roadways as fully integrated part of their public transport network. And there's one special project to my heart, which is the project in Paris that is set to open this Saturday, and I hope to elaborate on that in the following now.
Ms. Nicola?
Hello, I'm Nicola Small from Coventry City Council, which is a public sector organisation in the West Midlands in the UK. I have the great privilege of leading the Very Light programme, the Very Light Rail programme, which is a major innovation project in the light rail industry in the UK.
All right, so I think we'll begin with you, Jordi. You operate in some of the most demanding contexts in the world. Mecca during pilgrimage seasons as one of a kind, as a challenge, and now intercity networks across Saudi Arabia. How do you design or conceptualize routes, fleets, and operations to stay resilient? And when demand is highly seasonal, it depends upon the seasons, essentially, and highly peaked, and of course, I would like to mention mission critical.
Good, thank you. I want to explain here about two examples that you cannot be prepared for everything. This is my first message. I mean, we have to build resilient systems, but you cannot be prepared for everything. For example, we have all the standard procedures, we have all the several ISO certificates, and we have defined all our procedures. But then you have challenging situations where more or less you can be prepared, and then you have totally unexpected situations, which I will also give an example. So starting by the challenging situations. We are public transport operator of the city of Mecca. So the Mecca Hafilat, the city bus in Mecca, we are operating it together with local partners from Saudi Arabia. And in that city, we discovered that we could do exactly the same that we were doing in Spain, in Barcelona. We also are doing running the buses in Barcelona city. We did the same buses, the same manufacturer, we did the same standards, same procedures, same trainings, but then you realize that in Mecca you have something different, which is not anywhere in the world, which is the Hajj. In that one, we had to, to listen a lot to the local partners because they have experience here. We don't have it in Europe. They have experience here, and listening them and overall training the team, then we could, be prepared for this Hajj. Because when these extremely difficult situations arise, you need to have the empowerment of the middleman in the company. You have to empower them to take decisions because you need to be agile, you need to be fast. They have to take decisions. And also you need to train them to be prepared for these situations.
Of course.
So then I want to speak about another example, which this one is crazy. Most of you may know it. In April, we had a blackout in Spain. So all Spain, we lost. I am from Spain. I am from Barcelona. And that's why my accent is not very good. In Spain, we don't speak English very good. So we had this blackout. We lost all the electricity. So nothing was working with electricity. We lost also the communications by phone and by internet. So it was an absolute blackout in the full country. We never had that before. And I hope you will not have it here in Saudi Arabia never. We couldn't be prepared for that. We had these systems for energy and interrupt power supply, but some of them didn't work because they are there, but when you need them, they don't work. So how did we solve that situation? The only way to solve it was to have a really prepared team so that they can manage somehow that situation, because you cannot build a procedure for that one.
Thank you. I think, and your accent is spot on, by the way. So I think talking of these critical situations, Mayor Vrbanovic, when we talk about resilient transit, we usually talk about technology and assets. That's the critical point of the conversation. But from your lens, from a vantage point in Kitchener and UCLG, How do governance, funding models, and these public trust either make or break, the resiliency component?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for the question. And I'll start at a global perspective, certainly from UCLG. And resilience is a key part of city building anywhere, and really looking at this not just from the perspective of mobility, but also how it connects with a number of other areas that we're focused on, including SDG advancement, empowerment of people, the rethinking of development paradigms, anything that ultimately builds on the principles of care, solidarity, and sustainability in our communities. We really see transit systems not just about moving people from one place to the other, but really building on the principles of equity, inclusion, and sustainability in our communities. And so whether it's working at the UN on the SDGs, whether it's partnering with folks like UITP and others, UCLG really looks at it from a policy perspective at a global level with all of our counterparts. Bringing it to very much a local level, Kitchener is an urban center of 300,000 in a region of 700,000. We're Canada's tech and innovation hub in terms of, Kitchener's the home to Google's engineering headquarters. In our region, we have the University of Waterloo, which many of you may be familiar with in terms of its engineering and other programs. And so from an economic development and people moving perspective, we embarked on the construction of an LRT with phase 1 going from South Central Kitchener to North Waterloo, and that 19-kilometer system opened for the first time in 2019. It was built as a PPP partnership at a cost of $818 million, which included design, construction, and 20 years of operation. And the funding for that was split between the federal government, the provincial or subnational government, and our local government. Today, the system sees, the overall transit system sees about 26 million riders a year. And most importantly, from an economic resilience point of view, it's really spurred over $5 billion in development. Wow. It's been a real catalyst for urban growth, new housing, job creation, attracting new technology businesses into our community, and also supporting existing ones that have been there for a long time, like BlackBerry, like MyoVision, which is a company that's actually doing traffic management software and hardware in over 60 countries around the world, and including some work here in Saudi Arabia, as well as in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and others in the Middle East region.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Nicola, when we talk about the Coventry Very Light Rail program, it's often discussed as a cost story from a resilience standpoint. But how does being cheaper and quicker to install actually change what a city can do when responding to shocks like rapid urbanization, growth, economic downturns, or climate events?
Yes, thank you for the question. I mean, it's a really important question because most people ask me, why not an electric bus? Yeah. And I get frustrated with that question because it's not a question of buses or light rail. Right. You need both. They complement each other. Absolutely. Buses are an integral part of an integrated transport network. They can serve suburbia, they can connect people to high-quality public transport corridors. But having permanent infrastructure is essential to drive modal shift, to give people confidence that there's long-term public transport that can enable them to connect to jobs, education, healthcare. You know, knowing that infrastructure is there to stay enables people to have confidence in the system. But more importantly, for these fast-growing cities, how do you cope with the demand for increased housing, for example? Buses alone will not achieve that. You need the permanent infrastructure so that you can densify your housing capacity. You can build more apartments. In the case of Coventry, we have one of the biggest population growth in the student sector. We're a young city. Many people in the UK now don't want to own and drive a car. It's simply too expensive. So how do you cater for that growing population, the younger generation, and give them transport that they can rely on? And we can do that if we have an affordable light rail system, like Very Light Rail, that's quick to install. We've just delivered a trial in the city centre. We managed to construct 200 metres within 8 weeks. Because of the shallow track form, we can build on top of utilities. And we've designed the system to be climate resilient, because we know that we're a changing world in the UK. Believe it or not, we had a summer of 30 degrees for about 4 months, which is unheard of. And we were trialing this technology in that heat. People did appreciate the onboard aircon, but what we've done, we've developed a new drainage system so we can cope with heavy rainfalls. We don't have overhead line equipment, so there's no risk of overhead lines sagging in extreme heat. It is a very light vehicle, so it's fully battery operated. It can do 50 kilometres on a single charge. And the concrete that we're using for the track form, it's called ultra high performance concrete.
Right.
It wasn't widely used in the UK. We discovered it's used in America quite widely for cladding, but it's super strong. It performs like steel, and actually it improves the performance of the road, and it adds additional protection to assets that are underneath the road. So what we've created is really something special, and it's great to be here on a global platform being able to talk about it now, because it really started off as a local project and it's gaining regional and national significance, but it's really great to be able to talk about it here in Riyadh too.
That's really insightful, and that makes me a bit more curious, so I'll follow up with the question. Is it causing some of that invention, and now that it's taken a particular pace over there, is it having some sort of impact on the local real estate assets within the Coventry Council, or?
Yeah, we're still in the research and development phase. So the way that money comes forward, it is a public funded project.
Right.
So it's not been easy, and I do have to work very closely with government to unlock the funding. So we've had 40 million. It's not usual. There are no other councils that do research and development of this type. Why are we doing it? Because we have a director that was visionary and didn't want our city to just rely on a public bus service. We wanted more than that, and we believe that you shouldn't have to live in a big city like London or Birmingham or Manchester to have access to high quality transport. So we had that visionary leadership, and then really importantly, political support. Right. So a local political champion. And we're lucky that the visionary leader is also a civil engineer by background. So it's been great to work alongside him. I'm not actually an engineer, but I am fascinated with innovation, and I really wanted to work on something transformational. But now that others can see the benefit of what we're doing and recognise for real estate what this means, we have got lots of developers keen to work with us to develop land outside of the city, and create mass transit corridors where we can put VLR, Very Light Rail, in the future. Amazing.
Now, Benedikt, when I think of ropeways, I mean, it's often seen as spectacular, but again, let's accept it's niche. So from the projects you've worked on, how do you think these cable cars actually strengthen network resilience? I remember backstage, you were talking about a project based in Paris. Can you elaborate on that?
Right, so first of all, I think I agree with Nicola that the key, the backbone of our strength networks is a multimodal transport network. So where all modes work together, where each mode serves its purpose, where it fits best, but all integrated, all easy to use. And that's what we see in Paris. Yeah, there are the suburbs in the south. They had quite a challenge. They were cut off from the rest of the city with a big railway yard. There are the TGV high-speed railway line is running through. They had public transport, but the buses, they were quite unreliable. They had to do a big detour. They were stuck in congestion, and it was just not comfortable, not reliable for the people. So the region decided to go on this journey. They investigated the mobility, what's really needed, what are the pain points, and what the people need and want to improve their life there. And then they defined the requirements for that. They also compared different systems. So they checked what is, if we do it with a bus, what if we do it with an LRT, and what if we do it with a cable car. And ultimately they decided to build a cable car, and Doppelmayr was proud to construct it over the last 2 years. And this cable car is directly next to the metro station, so we have a seamless, a short transfer from the metro, and then it expands the metro into the suburbs, so it bridges over this railway yard. So we don't need to build a bridge.
Right.
The cable car itself is a bridge. Then it goes into this suburb, so we also have improved connectivity within those suburbs, within each other. And we make the journey for the commuters, for the students, for everyone who's living there towards the metro and the center where the jobs, where the schools are. We make them more reliable, and ultimately we make it shorter. So we have a lot of use cases in just this one project. It's bridging over an obstacle, and this doesn't need to be a natural obstacle. In this case, it's a man-made obstacle, but we're bridging over this obstacle. We're connecting different points with each other. We're expanding the metro line. We are relieving pressure from the existing road system by putting the people to another system on a next level of the mobility.
Right.
And it's set to open this Saturday, so if you don't believe me now, you're all invited to Paris and ride it and hear from the people there how it's working and how it improves their daily journeys.
I'd love to. I mean, thank you so much for that. And talking of these multimodal systems, Dr. Dutt, Prasarana operates complex multimodal systems in Kuala Lumpur and other cities. Now, when you think about resilience, especially from such an overarching lens, how do you really conceptualize your network and operating plans when there's a disruption or technical disruption or some kind of a system that can basically absorb these shocks? So how do you go about it?
Okay, the first thing is that we have to be clear what we mean by resilience. Resilience is overcoming disruptions. So we have to go back one step further, and we have to actually minimize disruptions or eliminate disruptions. That's the first step towards resilience. Now, the globally accepted measure of resilience for urban rail systems is actually mean kilometers between failures. When we started on this journey to improve our operational reliability, in 2023, our MKBF, mean kilometers between failures, was 160,000. That means each time we travel 160,000 on any one of the 5 lines combined, there would be a failure which lasts 5 minutes or more. So we had to take certain measures. I'll come to those measures shortly. In 2024, we improved from 160,000 to 330,000, more than double. And in 2025, it hasn't ended yet, the year hasn't ended yet, but as of now, we are at 550,000 kilometers before a failure of 5 minutes or more. So how did we go about doing that? The first thing is actually to take a step back. Now, most of our systems are GOA 4, Grade of Automation 4, which means they are driverless. But what we did was that we put a transit officer back on the train. Why? Because there are certain things on rolling stock failures that the person can do the reset inside the train itself. Whereas if you were to, if you do not have it on a driverless system, you don't need it on a GOA 4, then what would happen is that it has got to be, the control room has got to identify what's going to happen, and then either it has to reset from the control room or he has got to send a transit officer out to the train and then do it. So it'll definitely be more than 5 minutes. So that's the first thing. The other advantage of having a person on board is that he can actually sense whether the train should be pulled out of service or not. Do you have irregular braking? Do you find that the aircon or the ventilation system is leaking or something? Those kind of things is actually very easy to do if you have a man on board. So that's what we did. That's the first thing we did. The second thing we did is that don't trust the OEM manual 100%. So what we did was that, okay, OEM manual may say, you only check this part. after 50,000 kilometers. We check it after 20,000. Basically, the fancy term for it is condition-based maintenance. But you have got to do it. You have got to do it, and by doing all this, you can actually reduce it. Now, these are the two most important steps. The other things, of course, is that you must ensure that your spare parts, you have your spare parts stock. These are all very, very, how should I put it, mundane, basic things, but you have got to put that in place. And so what we do is that we have a long-term relationship. We have started on long-term relationships with the OEMs, where the guaranteed delivery of the spare parts and the quality of the spare parts is guaranteed. So we signed a contract with the signaling provider for the next 10 years. So those are the kind of measures. Now, our target, the target that the minister has given us, is to increase it actually to 1 million kilometers before failure. So to go to that, we actually have got to rely on technology. Essentially, how do you combine? We have all the data. The data is there. Our PM data, our preventive maintenance data, our corrective maintenance data, our OEM data, our records, all are there. But how do you structure those things? How do you put in the algorithm so that you can actually do predictive maintenance? How do you have the data lake? Those are the kind of things that we are doing now. Currently, Prasarana, we are doing now so that we can fully move to predictive maintenance. So those are the things that you have to do. A lot of grungy work. You have to spend some money on it, but the results, believe me, are worth it because the complaints of the passengers go down and the passengers find it's a much more reliable service.
And these are very important operational choices as well, I think,
Yes.
when we talk about them.
Exactly.
So my next question with that is directed at you, Jordi. Now, from your own systems, whether we talk about Kuala Lumpur or Mecca, Coventry, or Kitchener, which digital capabilities have genuinely improved resilience? I mean, when it comes to the case of Mecca, which is a highly demanding ecosystem, and it's not just convenience apps, but what kind of digital tools do you think have
Okay, thank you for the question. I will continue with what my colleague said about the multimodality. I mean, for me, the best way to design a system, resilient system, is making it multimodal and well coordinated between all the stakeholders, not only the operators, but also the government entities and other stakeholders. Yeah. So you need the best operators in each mode of transport, and this in Saudi Arabia, I can say that yes, you are doing that. You are doing tenders for several projects. All the projects now, the good thing in Saudi Arabia is that all the projects now are greenfield projects, so everything is built from the scratch, so you can design it the best way, and this is in a good path, perfect. But then you need a technology all across the systems so that you can control all the operations and also inform the passengers, because if you don't inform the passengers, then it's not a resilient system. It's a multimodal, but it's different elements working.
To engage the community.
Yep. So then you need to create this mobility as a service technology or other type of technologies, but to make it easy for the passengers to enter the different types of transportation. And on top of that, for us, it's very critical all around the world, but also here in Saudi Arabia, that everything is growing so fast. You need this coordination between the government entities, so that there are different ministries, there are different sections, and all of them need to be coordinated to make this resilient transportation. And we, the operators, we will do our best, we will bring our knowledge, but we need to be in good hands here, and I hope, inshallah, with all the governments here, they will make this successful.
Definitely. Mayor, my next question is to you. I mean, I was curious about the fact that now, as you know, Saudi cities are trying to move really quickly. It's big capex, new operators, new regulations in a decade rather than several. So what lessons, I would ask, from a mid-sized North American city and the UCLG network are most relevant for Saudi Arabia at this critical time when a lot of the urban transformation is happening, that you think would be relevant in, let's say, 10 to 15 years of time, where these things will heavily impact the real estate ecosystem, or let's say the urban development ecosystem as a whole in Saudi?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And, I think I would begin by saying it's really important to be bold and ambitious in terms of your goals for the system. And clearly, in Riyadh, they have done that. They've recognized the importance of a public transit system towards not just the goal of moving people, but the importance of city building and urban design and how all of these things are connected. It's recognizing that, building these systems really encourages development and intensification and integrates the public transit as part of the culture of the community. I think the lessons learned from phase one, and we just recently approved phase two business case, subject to funding from our federal and provincial government partners in Kitchener and throughout Waterloo region. The lessons learned have been probably twofold. Number one, particularly if you're going through areas where there is existing development, the importance of communication and impacts of construction on residents, on businesses, and so on, need to be very transparent and upfront. And you can never have too much communications in order to address that along the way. But number two, speak to the successes that either you've had through previous phases or other communities have had in order to build the justification for it. Because really what you're building, and my colleague from Coventry spoke to this, is a multimodal system that's all about city building and recognizing that rail plays a particular role in terms of encouraging development and a certain kind of progress that you won't get, for example, from buses alone.
Absolutely, I think we agree to that 100%. Benedikt, when you add a new mode like that of a cable car into a legacy network, which is far more diverse and wider, where do projects typically, do you think, face challenges or fail sometimes, whether it's governance, data integration, ticketing, or let's say even public perception? What do you think goes wrong, or what do you think helps it sustain or get integrated in a more convenient fashion?
Well, it's very important that we do the first steps right. And the first steps are not about a technical discussion of different systems. It's about mobility. We have to understand mobility in our cities. We have to really know where are people coming from, where do they go, where are the bottlenecks, where are the challenges, and where's potential for future development. Because with that, we can try to create the requirements for our systems, and we know what we really need. And with that in mind, then we can compare different possible solutions. And of course, we should consider also new alternatives like ropeways for that. And when the ropeway meets those requirements best, it should be built. And then we have the first big barrier overcome with that, because then we have the justification why we're building it. This is the first thing. The second thing is that if we're talking about public transport, it should be clear that also the ropeway is fully integrated in the public transport network. So in terms of spatial integration, but also of fare integration, it should be the same as an LRT, as a very light rail, as a BRT network. It should be fully integrated spatially and from the fare structure. And the third thing is know your stakeholders and also take the public with you all the way, inform them why are you doing, what are you doing, and listen to their concerns, because there will be more concerns if the system is unknown to them in that context. But with a good public engagement and with really taking them seriously and explaining them what is happening and how they benefit from it, that really minimizes the risks at a later stage.
I think that's a really perfect note to end this conversation. I wish we had a lot more time, but I think what comes through clearly is that resilience is not only about the hardware, it's about governance, culture, humility, and how we engage with the wider audience on design systems that can fail safely but recover quickly. And thank you to each one of you. It's been a pleasure. And special thanks to CoMotion Global for making this very relevant conversation at this critical time happen. Thank you, everyone.